our temperatures are clearly increasing. There is significant increases in the summer temperatures. There's more days above 35, there's more days above 40. But the bigger increase is actually in the off-summer months.
For most of the towns, we have more heat extremes and fewer cool nights, and definitely shifting in the seasons and specifically in the rainfall timing.
Weather drives everything in the outback. It's a place of extremes. And though there are technically 4 seasons everywhere, in the central west of Queensland, they're not exactly what most would consider traditional.
Yep, summers are hot, spring and autumn are less hot, and winter's quite nice.
We do get a winter out here. We joke about it being sometimes a week, but we get pretty mild temperatures for several months of the year.
When it comes to the weather, the only absolute is that it's always changing. In Western Queensland, many farmers don't need a scientist to tell them that the climate is also changing. They are experiencing the hotter days, fewer cold nights, and seasons that don't behave as they once did. And it's impacting their farming practices and productivity. Now there's science to back up their observations and hopefully help them adapt.
There is a very clear point from the results. For most of the towns, we have more heat extremes and fewer cool nights, and definitely shifting in the seasons and specifically in the rainfall timing.
Across 8 Western Queensland regions, 50 years of weather data has been analysed, all taken from the Bureau of Meteorology's official records.
So what we've done is looked at daily, monthly temperature changes and rainfall changes, and it's quite surprising the amount of change we've actually already seen in the data, the real data.
Scientific analysis of weather data may be interesting, but is it useful? The answer lies in understanding how primary production is shaped by weather. Peter Thomas grew up on Beaconsfield, near Ilfracombe, about 30 kilometres east of Longreach. Today, he and his wife Kimball run the 12,000-strong Merino enterprise.
Beaconsfield's about 20,000 hectares, and traditionally it's always been grazing, mainly merino sheep, cattle from time to time. We're just mainly open down, so it's naturally fairly treeless, with timber along creek lines.
Like everyone who makes a living off the land, weather has been integral to Peter's life here, just as it was for those who came before him. Summer is typically very hot, with temperatures averaging between 36 and 38 degrees, but also regularly exceeding 40. Overnights remain warm, ranging from 22 to 24 degrees in those hottest months. Working around these conditions forms a big part of how they structure their farming calendar.
Normal year, I'll start with lambing. So normally we have ewes lambing Anzac Day into May. The theory behind that is because we're summer dominant rainfall, so we're lambing ewes onto the better pasture throughout the year to help them rear their lambs.
The colder winter months are when much of the hands-on husbandry happens. Lamb marking generally takes place in July. Shearing and weaning happens mostly in August. And then the cycle begins again, with rams being introduced to the ewes for mating in November and December.
You know, other producers generally operate on their same lambing and breeding cycle, just with shearings occurring at different times throughout the year, just to fit in with the shearers' availability. For as long as I can remember, that's roughly the calendar that we've run to.
But with the so-called fringe months on either side of summer becoming hotter, the Thomases were prompted to take a chance and make a change.
We weren't getting great lamb survival coming out of the summer, lambing into May, so we had some ewes which we put on a different calendar, which we joined later, lambed them in August, and so most of their pregnancy was carried over the cooler months.
Last year, that resulted in a 20% higher lamb survival from scanning rates. And while Peter concedes one positive season may prove to be a one-off, a 20% jump in survival rates was enough to convince him to stick with the changed schedule, for now at least.
It's something that we were interested in, and the heat effect of having our sheep pregnant over those hot summer months. And we've changed our calendar this year to see how that pans out.
Taking experience of the weather in a particular location and then looking at scientific data from that place to identify changes and trends is exactly the point of the work being done here at the University of Southern Queensland in Toowoomba.
This is a demand pull of science, not a supply push. Our producers will tell us their challenges and then we match the science to those, which significantly increases the adoption and uptake of the science we're giving them.
Bruce McConnell is the director of the university's Southern Queensland and Northern New South Wales Drought Hub. He's supervised the development of a climate and weather trend analysis tool for Western Queensland grazing.
Yes, we absolutely know it gets hot out there, but it's now hotter for longer and we're slightly hotter overnight. That's what Maddie's science now is able to prove, and therefore producers are seeing that actually moving their lambing into, say, an autumn period with a warmer winter is a better decision for them to get better weight and have a more productive, resilient system.
The research has revealed a few really significant takeaways. One, that summer is undoubtedly getting hotter, and in a place where it's already not uncommon to have an entire week of extreme temperatures, even a slight increase can have a huge impact. Importantly, the research also shows the heat of summer is stretching beyond our typical summer months, and not by a small amount.
So September, October, March, April, there's been significant increases. Most of these towns we're seeing over that 50 years an increase of 8 or 9 days per month for like the months of October, an increase above 35 degrees.
Night temperatures are also increasing, and that's significant for producers too.
The lack of minimum temperature means livestock don't recover overnight from a hot day. The heat stress doesn't dissipate as much, so that can have a significant impact on live weight gains, fertility, etc. So that's pretty significant for producers to think about issues like calf survival, lambing survival, heat stress, hydration, have a big impact on production, and that can have an impact on your weaning rates and profitability.
The fact this is science guided by decades of data, not forecasting or modelling, is what makes this information really valuable.
This is actually a clear trend. The 9 days per month is trending upwards over that 50 years. It can't be explained by just saying, yeah, it's just being more variable. It is a clear trend.
Jeff Penton is from Desert Channels Queensland, the natural resource management group in Western Queensland that's working with the Drought Hub to put this data in the hands of the producers who can benefit from it.
And we think it will have a significant influence on producers thinking about issues like water availability, distance to water, location of water points, and issues like shade, retention of vegetation strategically for shade, particularly in calving and lambing paddocks. They're the practical implications.
Changing weather trends can mean reshaping livestock management and, in some places, increased risks to production. It's hoped that by connecting farmers with scientific data around the changing weather, it can help inform their decision-making and make for more resilient and productive properties.
Across vast areas of central Western Queensland, it's been an amazing year of pasture growth off the back of good autumn rain. But the last drought in this part of the world is also still fresh in many minds. It dragged on for a decade across much of outback Queensland, and the devastation cost individuals, families, communities and the nation dearly. That's why this work is crucial now, to find ways to help producers handle the next disaster better.
We've really changed the drought conversation from one of a drought response when it happens to one of working through the whole cycle. Producers are well aware that good times end and they need to use these to get ready for the next one. And that also means not only getting feed into sheds, it means having a knowledge base of what to do when the drought hits, but also getting their balance sheets right and looking after their mental health.
Providing reliable and accessible water points and shade for people and livestock are some of the physical investments that can be made on a farm. But changing the way a farm runs is more difficult, especially in places where businesses have been profitable and productive for generations.
And that's the issue with climate change, is it's a very subtle change. So when do they make the leap? You need to be able to talk to the data on a regular basis, have them engaged in it over a period of time, and then have peers who are making the change that they can hear from.
Peter and Kimball Thomas are strong supporters of using data to guide decision making, though Peter Thomas concedes all change comes with compromise.
We're avoiding a lot of sheep activity over the heat, having them pregnant over the more favourable months of the year. But the compromise is that we'll be lambing onto pasture that's not as good as, May.
It will take time to assess if a change in the lambing schedule will pay off. But it's a risk the Thomases say they can't afford not to take.
We have to continually keep improving our productivity just to stay in business, really, keep ahead of inflation. So, any research into animal production or the environmental pastures that can help us do that, certainly something of value.
Desert Channels Queensland has held a series of producer meetings to engage farmers with this data. With the Bureau of Meteorology officially declaring El Niño for 2026, being as prepared as possible for the next weather challenge is a priority.
If our individual business or if industries are, relatively prosperous or profitable, it helps us invest in system changes or infrastructure that helps us adapt to the environment changing to less favourable conditions.
It takes a huge amount to encourage change. You need early adopters who are willing to move first to create that peer-to-peer learning and support for each other. You need hard science to give people confidence to actually move.